Story 1. I'm taking care of a local farm for a few weeks. They left me a strange set of rules. Part 3. When I fed the goats that evening, they still seemed mad at me from the morning. With all the pig business, I hadn't gotten their morning meal to them until nearly 10 a.m., and as I entered the pen they eyed me warily. Maria, a brown one, bleated, with a look of betrayal in its slit pupil eyes. My last task of the day was picking up the unsold produce. I hurried down the driveway, garden hod in my arms, an audiobook playing through my earbuds. The sun hung low in the sky, casting shadows that stretched across the driveway before me. The sun wasn't setting yet, that wouldn't be for another hour, but it still made me nervous. Most of the produce was gone, but I grabbed the 3 remaining zucchini and put them in the hod. Then I turned around and hurried back up the hill as fast as I could. But when I crested the hill, I saw something in the fields that made my heart stop. A scarecrow. Its arms stretched out at its sides. Its head hung limply on its shoulders. I couldn't see it in detail, it was too far away, but I could see its silhouette clearly. I immediately broke into a sprint. Just get inside. You'll be fine. I focused on the white door. It was still so far away. But I forced myself to stare at it, to keep my eyes away from the scarecrow. Just run. As fast as you can. And I made it. I slammed the door shut, drew the deadbolt, closed all the curtains, checked all the other locks. And then I collapsed onto the couch and called my boyfriend, Derek. You have to come here, I told him. There's someone out there, and I ran inside, but I think... I rambled on in incoherent sentences until he interrupted me. Wait, slow down. You think there's someone out there? Yes. Are you sure? Derek was a good man, but he often thought I was being a little too paranoid, a little too scared. When I insisted I was being followed home from work, he told me it was probably nothing, and just some guy walking the same route as me. When I heard sounds in the middle of the night, he insisted it was the house settling. When I watched true crime shows and told him how we need to do X or Y so we don't fall victim to a crime like that, he'd just laugh. It wasn't intentionally mean, but in these moments it was painfully obvious he'd grown up as a man, with little to be afraid of in this world. Yes, I'm sure. They said the farm doesn't use scarecrows, and there is a fucking scarecrow standing on the hill, watching me. I heard a loud sigh on the other end. Are you saying you don't believe me? I didn't say anything, he said calmly. You sighed. Okay. Sorry. It's just, this sounds really, he trailed off. Never mind. Please, just come over here. I'll explain everything. Why don't you come over here? Because if I go outside, the scarecrow will get me. Silence. And then I realized that sentence did sound pretty unhinged on its own. Listen, there's been really weird stuff happening on this farm. And then I launched into an explanation of everything. The list of rules, the sunflowers, the cornfield, even the pigman. Why didn't you tell me all this earlier? He asked when I'd finished. Because you wouldn't believe me. You still don't. I'm trying to. Just, this sounds like a lot of ghost story type stuff, you know? Another sigh. But look, I can tell you're upset. I'm coming over, okay? I'm leaving right now. Be there in a half hour. I ended the call and stared at the curtains. For a minute, I was tempted to part them, to make sure the scarecrow hadn't gotten closer, but I wasn't going to disobey the rules. When Derek arrived, I took every precaution to get him inside safely. I told him to park as close to the house as possible, look around for scarecrows, and then run as fast as he could. As soon as he was inside safely, my fear melted away. We put on a movie, had some good laughs, and then went to bed. But around 2 a.m., something woke me with a start. And when I sat up, I realized Derek was gone. Derek, I called out, walking into the hallway. Where are you? When he didn't reply, I walked downstairs. I found him standing in front of the window, peering outside. "Hey!" I hissed. "You're not supposed to look outside. SSHH. There's someone out there." My blood ran cold. I joined him at the window and scanned the fields. "I don't see anyone." "No." There was definitely someone out there. His fingers inched towards his belt, and my heart plummeted when I saw the shiny black metal sticking out of his pocket. "You brought your gun? You said you were scared," he whispered back. "You said someone was out there. I didn't really believe you, but now I do. Aren't you glad I brought it?" "No. I never want to be near that thing." "Okay. We can have some stupid debate about gun rights later. Right now, there's someone out there. And if we just go back to sleep, we might not wake up in the morning." "Derek, I'm just telling it like it is." I crossed my arms and stared out into the fields with him. And then, just as I was about to turn away, I saw it. A shadowy figure, walking along the edge of the sunflower field. Derek didn't waste any time. He unbolted the door and swung it open. "Hey, you, get off our property. I've got a gun." The figure stopped, paused, and then sidestepped into the sunflowers. Before I could stop him, Derek ran out of the house. "Derek!" I shouted, but he didn't stop. I paused at the threshold, and then I sprinted out after him. "Come back!" Fuck. He was running straight for the sunflower field. "Don't go in there." He probably wouldn't have even stopped. But when he got to the border, I screamed bloody murder at him, and he stopped for just a moment. "You can't go in there," I panted, grabbing his arm. "The sunflowers." "Yeah, you told me they're evil or watch you or something. I think I can handle myself." He gestured to his gun. "And if I don't scare this fucker, he's going to come back and rape or murder or do whatever he came here to do." With that, he disappeared into the foliage. I stood there, panting, at the border of the field. "He'll be okay," I lied to myself. "He'll be okay." As the adrenaline faded, I lifted my head and scanned the flowers. They were all turned towards me, yellow petals appearing silver in the light of the full moon. "Okay. It's okay. They're all pointing the same direction. See." Wait. There was a single flower, in the center of the field, turned away from me. My blood ran cold. "Derek, come out of there." Silence. No pounding footsteps, no rustling, nothing. A chill ran over my body. "Please come out," I begged, staring into the shadowy darkness under the flowers. And then I heard it. "Help!" Derek's voice. Strangled, in pain. I reacted instinctively. My feet hit the dirt and I stumbled into the darkness. Leaves brushed my body, scratched at my arms. "Derek!" I called. The sunflowers stretched up, 6 or 7 feet tall, their moonlit heads swaying in the breeze above me. I turned a full circle, looking in every direction for Derek, but all I saw were more stems, more leaves, more inky black shadows. "Derek? Where are you?" I stopped walking and listened, straining my ears for any sort of sound. And then, after several seconds, I heard something, a soft rustling. There was just one problem. It was coming from right above my head. I looked up. The sunflower directly above me was tilted straight down. And this close I saw it clearly. Its head wasn't full of seeds. No, where the seeds should have been, there was just an abyss of pure black. And there were things between the petals and the abyss, white, sharp things, all pointed towards the center. Teeth. I broke into a sprint. With both arms I pushed the sunflowers out of the way, forcing myself through the field. "Derek!" I screamed, but all I heard was more rustling above my head, as all the sunflowers tilted towards me, as their mouths opened and rows of sharp fangs, gleaming in the moonlight, descended towards me. Then something grabbed my arm. I was dragged through the fields, the foliage snapping and rustling underneath me. "Help!" I screamed, but as my legs kicked against the dirt, I realized I was powerless, as I was dragged to my death. I was staring up at the stars. I shot up. The thing clasped around my arm wasn't a sunflower, it was a hand. An old, wrinkled hand. I looked up to see a bowler hat and a dark suit. The old man from the farm stand. And there, several feet away from me in the dirt, was Derek. He was breathing hard, alive, but his right arm was covered in dark blood that spilled out into the soil. "I think it's time we had a talk," he said calmly, as he let go of my arm. Stay tuned for the next updates. Story 2. I'm a freshman at a small university. My roommate broke one of the rules. Part 3. 1998? That couldn't be right. That was about 25 years ago. Despite the year, there was no mistaking it. The kid in the photo was definitely Bryson. I continued to flip through the scrapbook. I started to notice a pattern in all of the pictures that made my heart ache. In every one of the photos, Bryson seemed genuinely happy. Happier than I'd ever seen him in my short stint at the university. He looked so vibrant, so full of life. Whereas now, it was evident that whatever light had once gleamed in his dull, sullen eyes had been snuffed out long ago. I continued to flip through the pages, studying the dates that were scrawled beneath the images. November 1998, February 1999, April 1999. And that's where they stopped. I couldn't find anything past April of 1999 in the entire scrapbook. What really happened all those years ago? I was snatched from my reverie by the ding of a student ID being accepted by the door. I hurriedly slammed the book closed and slid it back to its cobweb palace. I flew back to the bed I'd slept in the night prior just as Bryson pushed open the door. "Hey, I see you're awake." "Yeah, I was just leaving," I said, pretending to tie my shoe. "Thanks for letting me crash here. You're a real one." "Yeah, don't mention it." "Oh, and by the way," he said, marching up to me, "I found your textbook. I don't think it'll be of much use to you now, though." He pulled what was left of my chemistry book from behind his back and dropped it on the ground before me. It had been reduced to a tattered mess of shredded pages clinging loosely to a crumpled spine. I sighed. To be fair, he had warned me. "Thanks, I guess." "I owe you one," I muttered, scooping up the ruined heap and trudging toward the door. "Hey, Clayton." I froze in place, spinning to face him. "What's up? You didn't happen to look under the bed, did you?" Shit. How did he know? And no, why do you ask? I sputtered, trying my best not to look guilty. Bryson glared at me, his cold, icy gaze sending dread pumping through my veins like venom. "I'll take your word for it. This time. Now, get out." I didn't stick around. I bolted back to my room before I remembered the whole reason I'd ended up in that predicament in the first place. I didn't have my student ID. Having the guy at the front desk come let me in was a fuckload of fun, but I won't bore you with the details. Due to my little mishap, by the time I arrived to class, I was a whopping 5 minutes late, and the professor had locked me out. Great. Looks like I won't be needing a new chemistry book after all. Not after getting a big fat 0 on my first exam. Needless to say, my day had gone to shit. By the time I arrived back at my dorm room, I'd had enough. I opened the door to find Josh lying on his bed. He grinned at me smugly as I shuffled into the room. "Thanks for leaving last night, man. That girl gives some of the best head on campus." "Yeah. And thank you for answering the damn door, asshole. Either you sleep like a brick, or you were hoping to stumble across my mutilated corpse this morning." "Wait, what? I didn't hear anyone knocking. I thought you were spending the night in a friend's room or something." "Look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have blown up at you. Last night I fell asleep in the common area, and when I woke up, the janitor was practically breathing down my neck. And on top of that, I forgot my student ID in the room, which left me fucked with a capital F. Geez, bro. How'd you get out of there? Shit, and I thought my encounter with the supernatural sucked. Bryson let me crash in his room. Wait, what encounter? Was it Clarissa? She's a real creep show. Nah, this was the guy in the laundry room. You know, the one we have to listen to, or else. Screw that. He can suck a fat one. I watched as a spark of defiance swept across Josh's green irises. I couldn't believe it. He knew better. Why would he do something so blatantly reckless? All the color drained from my face. No, Josh had to have been pulling my leg. You're joking, right? You didn't actually disobey him, did you? You know damn well what'll happen if you did. Look man, I'm sick of this shit. Why should I have to conform to that guy's every whim? He's been dead for like 100 years. So what if I didn't give him a nickel for the laundry machine? He's not gonna crucify me for it. Whatever punishment he has in store, I'll be fine. Nothing we can do now, I guess, I began, a knot forming in my stomach. I sure hope you're right. Josh wasn't in his bed when I awoke the following day. That wasn't out of the ordinary, though. He'd signed up for classes last minute, so he got stuck with a couple 8 a.m.s. Kudos to him for that. I certainly couldn't do it. I didn't start to worry until that evening. Josh would hang out with friends after class every once in a while, but he usually at least filled me in on where he was going if he didn't take me with him. We hadn't known each other for long, but I'd really warmed up to the guy. I was an introvert, so naturally, Josh was one of the only friends I'd made. I couldn't bear the thought of something happening to him. After hours of deliberation, I decided to shoot him a text message. I didn't want to come off as a helicopter roommate, but I needed to know that he was okay. Hey bro, everything good? Just checking in. Haven't heard from you today. Josh hadn't responded by the time I laid down in bed. At that point, about 5 hours had passed, and needless to say, I was anxious. I had a sinking feeling that whatever was going on had a direct correlation to the man in the laundry room. When Josh didn't show up for the next 2 days, I knew that I needed to investigate. I couldn't just sit around and do nothing while he was potentially in danger, or worse. Kara was my first unfortunate victim. I don't know why I thought she'd be any help at all, but I had to give it a shot. Hey, I'm looking for my roommate. Have you seen him by chance? About 6 feet tall, brown hair, green eyes, kinda goofy looking? His name is Josh. Josh Matheson. No, I haven't, she replied, her eyes perpetually glued to her screen. All the while, Clarissa sat motionless in the chair beside her. That demented smile was still pasted to her lips, and her black, soulless eyes bore into my chest like a power drill. How Kara put up with her that often, I will never know. Gee, thanks a lot, Kara. Always willing to lend a hand, huh? Well, can you look him up in the system? Maybe see if he's swiped into the building in the last few days? Come on, I'm desperate here. Kara sighed, glancing up from her phone. No, I'm not at liberty to share that information. If you've exhausted all other options, file a report with the campus police. They should be able to help. I mentally facepalmed myself. Why hadn't I thought of that? Surely they'd be able to find some answers. Thanks, Kara. I'll try that. Yep, whatever. A creeping feeling washed over me as I walked away. I didn't think Kara knew anything about Josh's whereabouts, but something told me that Clarissa did. I hurried over to the police station. Long story short, they were zero help. The officer who took my report basically laughed me off. His best guess was that Josh was on a 2-day bender and had lost his phone. I could smell cheap booze on the guy's breath, too. What an ass. I felt defeated. Kara couldn't help, and the campus police were a joke. My roommate was missing, and nobody seemed to care. I finally had to confront one of the only options I had left. I really didn't want to have to interact with the supernatural any more than I had to. But I didn't have a choice. I'm not sure how long I waited in the laundry room. I plopped down into the sole flimsy blue plastic chair that sat against the wall, waiting for who knows what. I'd never seen the laundryman before, and I had no idea how to purposely find him. Hell, I wasn't even sure if it was possible. But I had to try. I could feel my eyelids growing heavy. Between my lack of sleep and the low hum of the washers and dryers, I was inevitably lulled off to dreamland. I tried my best, but in all honesty, I never stood a chance at staying awake. "Hey, kid." I was jolted back to reality by the sound of man's voice. It was rough and gravelly, like he'd been smoking cigarettes since the age of 5. My eyes shot open, and they immediately darted around the room, searching fervently for the voice's owner. But I couldn't find anyone. "Hey, kid." Then suddenly, I saw him. There was a man standing in the corner to my right, leaning against the white brick wall. An outdated bowler hat obscured his face from view. His outfit was replete with a brown blazer, khakis, and a pair of sleek, black shoes. With my lack of historical knowledge, you could have told me that was Frank Sinatra, and I would have been none the wiser. My brows furrowed in confusion. I could have sworn that I'd looked there. It was as if the man had just materialized. "Hey, kid," he repeated a third time. "Hey, dude," I replied, standing from the uncomfortable kiddie chair. "That ain't a respectful way to speak to your elders," he said, meeting my gaze. His eyes glowed red, paralyzing me with fear. Sorry. That was rude of me. I'm willin' to look past it. If you do something for me," he grinned, a wicked smile inching across his lips. Yeah, what do you want?" "Gimme a nickel. I got laundry to do." I stared at him blankly. "How long has it been since you've used these?" "It costs $1 now." "Look, kid, I ain't in the mood to negotiate. If you want to give me $1, fine by me. Hand it over." I took a cautious step forward, producing my wallet from my back pocket. I sighed when my eyes landed on the contents within. "Here. I've only got a 5, I said, slapping a crumpled bill into the man's outstretched hand. "Thank you kindly. If that's all you gotta say, I'll be taking my Leah dash." "Wait." The man cocked his head to the side like a curious dog. "Did you really just interrupt me? Never do that again. Do you hear me? Fucking prick. What was so important that you felt the need to cut me off?" I shamefully met his burning stare. "Sorry. I came here to ask about my roommate. He's been missing for a few days, and I was hoping you might know something." The man twirled the $5 bill between his fingers, his visage melting into a pleased smile once again. "I don't answer to no one, but I'll make an exception just this once, on account of your generosity. What did the kid look like?" I released a breath I hadn't known I'd been holding. For a second, I thought I was going to end up as nothing more than a dash of blood on the linoleum. He's about 6 feet tall, brown hair, green eyes. His name is Josh. He said you asked him for a nickel a few days ago, and he refused. "Oh yeah, I remember him. Kinda goofy looking, right?" "Yeah, that's him." That malicious smile returned to his face. The man's eyes burned bright with elation. I felt a chill ripple down my spine at the sight. "If I were you, I'd check the vending machines." And with that, the man turned and faded into thin air.